Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Beyond the Album Cover with Jarrell Mason, where we get the scoop inside the entertainment industry with those in the know and give them their flowers while they're here to be celebrated. With me, I have a woman from the city of brotherly love, and this wouldn't be an interview with somebody from Philly unless we use the word John in about every other sentence. Phil Danco, Sugar Bush, backing vocals for Cher, Gloria Gaynor, Kathy Sledge, all of that and more. And she's killing it in the social media game. You can catch her on YouTube, Danni Gee TV. And I have herself, Miss Danni Gee, on Beyond the Album Cover with me. Welcome to Beyond the Album Cover.
Well, thank you for that. That was amazing.
I know.
I need to take you around with me as my hype man.
Yeah, got to try to do it old school, like how the late hype man for James Brown used to do, where everybody would get all hype and ready for the show. Are you ready for start time? Because you want to make sure everybody is ready and hype and get them all lathered up into a frenzy. But I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. So let's go ahead and dive straight into it. So tell me about your early life growing up in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia.
Sure. I grew up in Southwest Philadelphia. So, it's a very particular area. It's not South Philly. It's not West Philly. It's Southwest Philly. And on King Sesson Avenue, born and raised since the age of 2, single mom, myself, my sister, and my mom. And, she very much wanted us to be involved in the arts and culture and everything. So, early on in my formative years, she exposed us to a lot of the arts. She took us to see, the famous show, The Wiz. I was about 6 years old. We went on a church trip up to New York and saw The Wiz with Stephanie Mills, choreographed by my good friend, Mr. George Faison. And I think that was my first really, entry point into musical theater and what a performing artist looked like, especially looked like of us, of color. And of course, there was TV and all those shows, but seeing it live in person really, really just stirred something in my young soul. And then fast forward a few years after that, my sister and I were sent to a performing arts school in Philadelphia on Broad Street. And at that time, it was literally down the street from where the old Philly International Records used to be, the building on 313 Broad Street. And they've since torn it down, which is so sad. But we went to a private school that was attached to what is now the University of the Arts. But back then it was called College of Performing Arts. And so it was a very small school. So, thankfully that was where, I was able to get really fine-tuned attention from my teachers. I had never taken formal dance classes, but once I got there in the 6th grade, I was always very athletic, very tomboyish, always jumping and running in them streets, because back then you could, and you wasn't afraid of anyone snatching me up off the streets. We would hang out until the sun went down, until the street lights came up, and your mothers and fathers calling you like, where are you? Come on in here, So started going to performing arts school and started learning dance and theater and singing and choir. I was already singing in my church choir because of my grandmother. But, learning formal dance and ballet really, really just, I took to it like a duck to water, so to speak. And from there, a really good friend of mine who was also in our school, who was in my sister's class, who was 2 years older than me, Evelyn Watkins, she was already dancing professionally with Philadelphia, and which is the Philadelphia dance company run by Miss Joan Myers Brown, the legendary Joan Myers Brown. And she said to me one day after dance class, you should come and audition for the summer program at Philadelphia. They give free lessons to young, children dancers of color. And so I asked my mom, and she was like, sure, go for it. And so I went one summer morning and got into the training program. And just, every day during the week was, there having dance lessons with, legendary teachers like Jimmy Truitt, Cecilia Moran, just all name, Faye Snow, just so many legendary dance teachers back in those days. And about a year later, I was only 16. She invited me to join the company. And so I was 16 years old, working already professionally as a dancer, still in high school. and doing very well there. Incredibly, I was able to graduate as valedictorian, and I ended up getting a full scholarship to Temple University because of my studies. But I went into journalism because as you can see, as you mentioned my Danni Gee TV, I'm really curious about people's stories, and I always have been. Um, where they come from, what they think about, how they were as children. And so because I was already dancing professionally, I went into my major was journalism. But I was rapidly rising in the ranks as a dancer at Philadelphia and juggling college life and dancer professional life and starting to tour. It just was too much of it was competing. And so I dropped out of college. I did drop out of college, but it worked out. I continued dancing with Philadelphia, became a leading dancer there, and eventually made my way up to New York to join Alvin Ailey, American Dance Theater, in 1991. Stayed there for about almost 6 years. Unfortunately, I had an injury and I had to leave dance. But prior to me joining Alvin Ailey, which would get back to the music, I met and started working as a backing dancer for Kathy Sledge of Sister Sledge. And so I was doing, between gigs with Philadelphia, I was doing side gigs with her. And this is when she went solo from her sisters and was working on club music and dance music. And we were doing a lot of gay clubs, gay pride shows, and straight nights, whatever. And but once I got into Alvin Ailey, you know, 6 years on the road all the time, it was impossible to continue working with her. But once I came home from Alvin Ailey, from New York after my injury, we reconnected, and I started working with her as a dancer again because it wasn't that strenuous the dancing that I had to do with her. And at that point, I had started dabbling in my own music and using music as a way to express myself and just my sorrow for having to leave Ailey so prematurely. And it ended up working out. She heard me backstage one day before a show, working on some songs in my head and just humming and singing along to myself. And Kathy said to me, "Well, I didn't know you could sing." And I said, working on some things. And by that point, she had gotten back together with her sisters and they were starting to do shows again. But all four of them could never make it work all at the same time. So she said to me, "Well, we're always looking for a third or fourth voice to, do these shows because, we need those harmonies." So she asked me to join what she was then the Sister Sledge with me as cousin Sledge. And then so we started I started touring around with Kathy, and eventually it became just Kathy, myself, and another backing vocalist. So it was Kathy Sledge of Sister Sledge, because then they started having their family drama, which I don't need to go into. But but it was amazing. It was amazing to work with her and get to travel some more around the world and work on my vocals, which led to me starting my band, Sugar Bush. So that's how Sugar Bush sort of came to be. Yeah.
Okay, now I want to back up really quick to the performing arts high school that you went to
Sure.
in Philadelphia. I'm sure it was like fame times 10 where you're sizing everybody up in the auditions and saying, "Oh, I'm going to get this part. Oh, I need to watch out for him or her because you're trying to take my spot."
Right. I mean, our school was so small. There was a lot more camaraderie. I honestly, the number of students in the school capped out at around 100. There was the bigger performing arts school, which has since moved to South Philadelphia, which maybe it was some of that, but there were in my graduating class, there were like maybe 12 kids. So it was really small, and which, we all had a moment to shine. It really wasn't that competitive in that sense. Although you bringing up fame is interesting because I think the movie just turned 40, is turning 40 this year. So there's all these celebrations. I believe Debbie Allen, who I adore. But who did go to my school is Questlove from The Roots. So Questlove was 2 years behind me. And, we would be running around the halls, and he was always constantly drumming, even then in fourth grade. But he then transferred to the public performing arts school, which is known as Kappa, Creative and Performing Arts, where he met Black Thought, and they formed what we now know as The Roots, which is amazing. But we're still friendly. It's all love.
Right, and also from that same performing arts high school that Questlove and Black Thought went to, you had Emil LaRue from Groove Theory, and of course, Boys to Men.
Yes. Yes, Amel LaRue, beautiful sister. I've actually, in my work at Summer State, I've gotten a chance to meet her, and her mother is an incredible scholar, Black dance historian, Brenda Dixon Gottschalk. I mean, just an incredible, incredible family. Absolutely.
And you mentioned Temple University at the top of the podcast. I got to say RIP to John Chaney, legendary men's
Yeah.
basketball coach at Temple. Took him to the Elite Eight a couple of times. Can you talk about the impact that not only he had on Temple University, but in and around Philadelphia?
John Chaney, or what do you mean?
John Chaney, his impact on Temple University and Philadelphia in general, because a lot of people thought that Temple, with the way that he had his teams constructed, it was a HBCU, kind of how people thought of John Thompson and Georgetown.
Got you. Well, I gotta admit, back in those days, I wasn't that into sports at all. I was so focused on dance that, I mean, of course, we knew John Chaney, we knew about the Temple Owls, we knew about all of it, but I was so hyper focused on my dance training that that's all I could see. These days, though, however, I'm much more into sports. The last bunch of 20 years or whatever, basketball, tennis, of course. Go Serena Williams. Australian Open. She can do it, kid. She can do it. But yeah, but back in those days, I was hyper focused on my dancing. So that's all I could see.
Tunnel vision. Now, with the Allen Ailey Dance Theater, it's a big deal if you get to be a part of the company. And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Jasmine Guy a part of the Allen Ailey Dance Theater before she got on School Days in a Different World?
Yes, she was part of what was now known as Ailey 2. And back in those days, it was called the Ailey Repertory Ensemble, which is the junior company of Alvin Ailey. And so the junior company was started by Mr. Ailey as sort of a way for younger dancers to develop themselves, but also for him to, work out choreography on a younger set of dancers that maybe the work wasn't quite ready for the main company, or he will also give emerging choreographers a chance to work on the younger company to just hone their craft, not only as dancers but as artists and as choreographers. So yes, and I also got to meet her on my travels with Alvin Ailey. Whenever we would go to California, she would come and see the company, come backstage. So it was, again, dancers are a unique bunch. It's always family. We always reconnect.
Now, with the junior company and the main company, was it kind of sort of like how Broadway does with the main and the understudy, where if somebody no shows or gets sick, then the younger company member steps up?
Well, no, Alvin Ailey, I mean, especially as it is now, the company I think is about 32 dancers. So within the main company, you would have people that would know multiple roles in one piece. So like if I was doing a lead role in say Night Creature, I would have two, maybe one or two understudies within the company. So the junior company is a completely separate entity. However, the junior company, more often than not, dancers from that entity will graduate up into the main company and get hired for the first company. So a lot of first company dancers have come from the junior company over the years.
So it was kind of like the main is like varsity and the juniors like JV.
Exactly. Yes.
Yep, you're getting eyed on, and by the time you get to the main company, you're ready and you know what to do. And we know Philadelphia
Exactly.
musically for Philly International with Gamble and Huff, even further back with Cameo Parkway, Pop Art, first put out some of the early hip hop records. Then, of course, the Philly hip hop scene, DJ Cash Money, Jazzy Jeff, and the Fresh Prince,
Yes.
Three Times Dope, Lady B, Street Beat on Power 99. So, can we talk about the impact of Philly hip hop and just seeing its rise and later the rise of Eve, the Roots, and then the whole neo soul movement that birthed out of Philadelphia?
Oh, it's everything. I mean, I think, Philly has always set the bar, I feel. Look, LaBelle, Patty, Teddy, all of it. I think it set the bar in so many ways for what we know now as R&B, but that was true rhythm and blues. That was true funk, rock, rap, hip hop, all of it. All that music coming out of Philly, you know, to this day, I mean, I still listen to that music. It's hard for me to listen to some of the music now, and I don't want to sound old or anything, but the lyrics, the harmonies. I mean, just that. Even when I started creating my own music, even though I skewed more towards rock and funk, but there was always laced with the harmonies, and that's because that's what I grew up listening to. And not just the Philly groups, but Earth, Wind and Fire, Rufus and Chaka Khan. I mean, just that's what was played in my house. Or more of the oldies groups that my stepfather used to listen to. But and then even seeing the rise of the Roots with Questlove and what they were doing with live music. Jill Scott. When I first saw Jill Scott, oh my gosh, man, I didn't know who she was. A guy that went on like a date with. He took me to this open mic poetry reading thing in West Philadelphia, and it was being hosted by Jill Scott. I didn't know who she was, but apparently she had just come off from touring with the show Rent. And we went to this little spot in West Philly. As she came out, she introduced herself, and then she started singing. And I was like, "Who is this?" And then maybe 2 or 3 years later, this had to be, I want to say, mid to late '90s. And then a few years later, I was in New York, 2000, maybe 2001, too. And I got invited to a show at SOB's, which is in downtown New York. By this time, I moved back to New York, and Jill Scott was on the bill, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's that chick from Philly that I saw." And by that point, her album was out. The first album was out, and she had like blown up, and it was amazing. And Music Soul Child was opening for her, and it's just incredible to see her ascension. So again, out of Philly, setting the standard, setting the bar. So I'm proud of my roots. I'm proud of my roots. Absolutely.
Right. And also out of that movement, we have Belial and
Oh,
Floetry.
yo, absolutely. Come on.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
my stuff.
actually, you
I
know what?
remember that stuff all too well.
I know, I see. You probably know more than I do, but I'm sure you do. But Bilal actually, funny again, interestingly enough, in my post dance music life, trying to find myself, I ended up being asked to join this swing band. Remember back in like 97, 98 when swing music had this huge resurgence?
Yeah.
And so I was a part of this band called The Big Push. And at that time, Bilal was one of the guest vocalists. And I remember meeting him, and we didn't really connect. I mean, he was in his own space, in his own world. He's that cat, right? And I just remember being on the side watching him when he did his feature songs and just being blown away, and again, move fast forward in my life now as an arts presenter at the festival at Summer Stage. I mean, he's performed on Summer Stage a few times now, so I've got to see him again and be like, "Hey, man, good to see you." So again, it's all love in this arts and music world.
So it sounds like Philadelphia, like Atlanta, is very much a big community and everybody knows everybody. So when one person gets on, you kind of do what you can to see if you can help somebody else along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even again, in my role as a presenter now here in New York, at the festival at Summer Stage, where I present all the dance performances, I've had numerous dance companies from Philadelphia come up to New York and perform in our various park stages. Yeah.
Mm. Now with dance, did you have to learn all styles of dance, or was it particular to one style of dance, or you had to be more than just a one trick pony?
Yeah, I mean, you try to take everything, or at least you should. I feel like if you, especially these days, I mean, kids today have to really be well versed in all styles. If you want to get the gig, I mean, it could call for anything, if it's ballet, hip hop, whatever. But training at Philadelphia, yeah, we were taught everything. We even had tap. I mean, African ballet, modern, Dunham, Horton, all of the above. So because Philadelphia is known as a repertory company, which means that one ballet could be a very balletic ballet, and then the next work could be very jazzy. The next work could be like based in rooted in African and dance. So you really had to be well versed in all styles, and that helped me greatly when I got up to Alvin Ailey, because it's very similar in that it's a repertory company, and so you have to be able to do it all. Absolutely.
Mhm. And also, I forgot to mention Hall and Oates from Philly.
Listen, yo, when I tell you that was actually the first concert I ever went to was to see Hall and Oates. My mom took me to see them. She was a fan as well at the Man Music Center. I think I was like 9. And I gotta say, I had a little crush. I had a little crush on Daryl Hall. I gotta say, I ain't not gonna lie. But yeah, man, those cats, amazing. We almost actually in this digital space that we're in now with Summer Stage, we almost booked Daryl Hall for a virtual show this past summer. And I was working on that deal for our festival. And it fell through, but it would have been amazing.
Yeah, Daryl Hall and John Oates always gets a pass to the cookout, or at least a nice sized cheesesteak from Geno's or Pat's.
All right. Yes, exactly.
All right. So now going back to Boys to Men, when they first dropped with Motown Philly in '91 off the Pretty High
Mm,
Harmony album, which was produced by a young up and coming Dallas Austin, did you think that
yes.
these four guys from right here would change the face of pop music as we know it? Because pretty much every male R&B and pop group that has came after them has followed their blueprint vocally.
Again, when you're in it and when you're in the moment, you're just loving it. You're grooving to it and you're dancing. You're not thinking beyond that. You're in the basement, grooving and grinding with your boo. So, then you see them again blowing up. You're like, oh snap, look at them. So when you're in the moment, you're not thinking that way. You're just having a good time. So I'm just proud to see that they've maintained and that they're still doing it. They're still out there, and I love that, and I love that for them.
Yeah, my wife and I got a chance to see their Vegas residency a couple of years ago, and I was still
Oh,
amazed at
nice.
the fact how good they sounded. And also, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree with one more Wanye's kids. I mean, the oldest one, carbon copy of Wanye.
I love and that's the thing about these groups that are like legacy when they start bringing their children in. And some people get a little weird about it, but I look at somebody like Kathy Sledge, right? Right now, her daughter Kristen has been touring with her of late, and they recently started an Instagram live series during COVID called The Family Room, and it's really picking up notice. And I think they're in talks now about doing a TV show. So, I mean, why not bring your children on? Other groups have done it, so it's not a big deal. But going back to what you said about maintaining, I think of somebody like Patti LaBelle. Like when you hear Patti, like she still sounds great to me. And so yep, and Kathy Sledge. I mean, and they're mature. They're mature now, but they're killing it. They sound amazing.
Yeah, because when I was surprised that Patti LaBelle did the Masked Singer a couple of seasons back, still sound just like the record. And even when she did the verses with Gladys Knight, it's like that nice piece of Patty sweet potato pie with your ice cold glass of milk. When it hits, it hits.
Well, what's interesting too about that is again, Philly is a small community of families. It's a big city, but it's a small city. And Patty's niece, oh my God, I'm having a brain moment. Went to our school. Stacy Holt is her niece, and she went to our school. So she will always talk about her Aunt Patty, how great she was. And then fast forward, when I was working with Kathy, we would sometimes be on these shows where there would be Patty and there would be Stevie Wonder and there would be. So I got to meet a lot of my heroes working with Kathy Sledge. And then again, fast forward once again to Alvin Ailey, my first year in Alvin Ailey, Judith Jamison, the director, who's also a Philly girl, by the way. She was working on a ballet called Rift, and Nona Hendrix of La Belle did the original music. So it's all Philly. It's all Philly love in the house.
Right. And then also Philly, alongside with Boyz II Men taking over the music game with Motown Philly, is so hard. And two, their whole phenomenon, Will Smith was staking a name for himself in acting and
Yeah.
film with Fresh Prince of Bel Air, Independence Day, the whole list. And it was like Philly was definitely on when those two really took hold nationally and later on internationally, where everybody in the world knows
Right.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, and it's sort of, I don't know, it sort of bothered me that people used to call Will Smith corny or that he sold out or something. And or even like, when the Roots started doing Jimmy Fallon, it's like, listen, folks gotta live. Folks got families to raise. But Will Smith is great. Never got. Well, actually, I did get to meet him one time, but it was like really random at a gym. He was in New York filming. Oh gosh, what's the Hitch movie where he was a matchmaker?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, excuse me. But he was in New York. He was actually working out at my gym. And what I like about his vibe, like he's just an everyday guy. Like you see him, you speak to him. He's not like, oh no 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 no, don't look at me. He's just Will Smith. And maybe it's a Philly thing. I don't know, but very very accessible.
Right,
Mm.
because a lot of people tend to think that when you're big, you have your whole team saying no pictures, can't say hi,
Yeah.
almost where you're invincible, you can't be touched.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Because Philly, like New York, and probably LA too, certain parts, one of those cities where they'll let you know when you're too big for your britches.
That's right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Philly will let you know for sure.
Yeah, you
Hmm.
got too big for an Italian ice, a cheesesteak, or a soft pretzel, or
Oh
a
my
tasty
God. There
cake.
used to be, yeah, there was a Jack's water ice, but a block or so from where I grew up, my mom's house. And man, I tell you, that place, it was in the summertime. If it wasn't the free lunch they were giving out at the schoolyard across the street, we were online with our little quarter or 50 cents, whatever, to get some water ice and a pretzel. That was it, man.
Snack on the
Yeah,
go, right?
that's right. That's right.
Right. And also, if you go up north, like around Philadelphia area, you'll see a bunch of gas stations called Wawa. Wawa,
Yeah.
they're known for their sandwiches, their
Yeah.
drinks. It's kind of like an up north version of Sheets.
I don't know sheets.
Sheets is based out in Pennsylvania, and it's pretty much where they do made to order food, like a gas station, and
Okay.
everything. So
Mm-hmm.
Wawa and Sheets are kind of sort of similar, very much so the
Okay.
same. But definitely go to Wawa's, get you all that good stuff, and find a tasty cake because nothing tastes better than a tasty cake.
Oh my God, right. And Intamins.
Yeah, you got to get all of that. So can we talk about
Yeah.
the impact of Gamble and Huff and Philly International and what they mean to Philadelphia?
I mean, everything, which is why it was really sad to me that they weren't able to keep the building. Like, I don't know all the ins and outs of why they had to tear it down or why it was allowed to be torn down. But, you know, it should have, I feel it should have been given landmark status. I mean, all the artists and the music that came out of there that created a whole generation of artists. Not only that, but influenced music across the world. And so yeah, it's just sad to me. But they're doing their thing, Gambling Half, and they've got their legacy to maintain. And I just hope that they need to be celebrated, in a big way this year. I think, yeah, what did I say? The 50th anniversary of the record label. So I just hope that it sucks that we're in COVID and this shut down and everything else, but I just hope that they're able to celebrate in a big way because they need to be held up.
I definitely agree. Release those Philly International catalog albums, remaster them, because some of you all know your first song about cheating was Billy Paul's Me and Mrs. Jones. I didn't know
Oh my
songs
God.
about cheating at the time as a kid, but it sounded so smooth where you're thinking about, oh, he's meeting with a lady and somebody doesn't
Okay.
know that they'll be at the cafe. And I'm like, oh, you'll find out about it when
Yes.
you're a kid.
Yeah, yeah, and then I remember, I don't know why he was over there. Maybe he was seeing somebody on the side. I don't know. But he was in my neighborhood at one point, and I remember like just playing in the streets, and somebody was like, "That's Billy Paul. That's Billy Paul." And we were like, "Why is he over here?" And so we don't know who he was seeing in that house over there, but he was there, and he
Maybe
stayed for
Miss
a little
Jones was
while.
probably over there. Yeah,
Exactly,
knock on the
exactly.
door, hit the buzzer twice, let you in, and maybe that was where the inspiration for
Yes.
Mrs. Jones came from. Now, Philadelphia hip hop, I mentioned earlier, The Roots, Jazz Jeff, and Fresh Prince. Three Times Down
Yes.
also had Eve come out of there, and also Benny Siegel and Freeway. If
Oh,
you have
right.
not listened
Yeah.
to the Philadelphia Freeway album, best early 2000s rap album for me, because there's a
Absolutely.
video that gone viral where he was at a Sixers game, and I guess they played
Mm,
what they do, and the crowd was all in it and hype, and it just made me want to go back to my closet, find an Averett jacket and a throwback jersey, because that was my high school era
yes.
right there. That
Yes.
2000s Benny Siegel Freeway State Property Movement.
Yes. Well, if you want to talk about, unsung heroes, but even though he got his flowers, Allen Iverson, man. Can we talk about Allen Iverson? That brother, I can't it just breaks my heart that brother never won a trophy. He
Yeah,
never got that ring.
yeah,
He was everything for us. And can we talk about Dawn Staley? Come on, Dawn Staley. Oh, can I tell you a little tidbit?
yes,
So I forget what year it was, but there was a year when Dawn Staley got a mural downtown Philly at I think it was Ninth and Market. Huge 7 6 7 story building of Dawn Staley, dodge and dipping, whatever. And on the south side of I'm sorry, not Broadway, Broad and Lombard, I believe it was. There was a Philadelphia mural that I was on. So I remember feeling so proud that I was on one mural and she was on the other mural. And it just, anyway, Philly is known for its murals, by the way, if you don't know. Philly is a mural town. And so, yeah, just again, sports legends, proud of them and what they're doing. And she and her new role, well, not new anymore. What's the name of her team?
the Gamecocks, University of South
The
Carolina.
Gamecocks. That's right. That's right. Yeah. And Allen Iverson, I don't even know what he's up to these days.
I think he's living in Charlotte.
He's in
Charlotte, North
Charlotte
Carolina.
now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But well
Yeah.
loved, well revered, aka Bubba Chuck
Yes.
for those that know him from the 757 Hampton Roads area. Definitely a legend. The step over
Yeah.
Tyronn Lue will be forever
Okay, come
played
on,
into
breaking
the
all kinds of
entertainment.
ankles.
Yes, it will make you look silly while doing it. Everybody loves him. And also, we mentioned AI Don Staley, but I have to mention the late great Hank Gathers. He went to
Oh,
Dobbins Tech and went out to Loyola
yes.
Marymount, and sadly, ended up passing away at a
Yeah.
young age. And Bo Kimball, in a tribute to Hank,
Mm,
made a free
yeah.
throws in the NCAA tournament game like Hank would. And for me, as a college basketball fan, it was a shame to see, like, man, this guy was on the cusp, and to have him get
Yeah.
so short, it was so sad when Hank Gathers.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so back to the music, back to the love, what an amazing journey, and I've been really blessed and fortunate to, because of Kathy Sledge, meet and work with so many great people, because it was because of Kathy Sledge that I actually met Gloria Gaynor. We were all on this one tour together in 2006. It was called the boogie the boogie tour, flashback boogie tour or something. And so it was Kathy Sledge and us backing vocals. We were we weren't really backing vocals because we were sort of performing like she would back in the day with her sisters. So we were all sort of down front. But Gloria Gaynor was on the show, and the whole house band was Casey and the Sunshine Band. It was basically Casey's show, and we were like his guests. And so, but we all used the Sunshine Band for our sets. And the other group, how about, oh my God, Tavares? Remember Tavares?
Yes.
Heaven must have an angel. But yeah, they were great. And to hear their harmonies, and they were killing it. It was a 3-month tour, and we did about 3 or 4 cities a week. But it was amazing. So just again, getting to meet all those legends and seeing their work ethics, just really important for me to see that.
Now, with doing backing vocals, how do you know the importance of being able to blend with the fellow vocalists and know not to pop out where you're there to help the main, but also you can add your own spin, but not overdo it to where you're outshining the main person?
Yeah, that is definitely a skill, but also harmony is a skill, and certainly working with Kathy Sledge, with her sisters originally, because I would do shows with Kathy. Initially, I would do shows with Kathy and her sister, Debbie Sledge, a real tall one with a really long, pretty face. And then sometimes it'll be me, Debbie, me, Kathy, and Kim Sledge. Every so often, maybe Joni, but Joni was living in Arizona. God rest her soul. But most of the time, it was me, Kathy, and Debbie Sledge, and we would do a lot of European dates. But working with them, at first I was nervous to work with them, just solely on a vocal tip, not dancing. But I dared myself, and it really challenged my ear, and it sharpened my ear. And I realized quickly, especially once I started my own band, that not everybody can harmonize. It's really a skill to be able to, first of all, hear your note and then stay on your note. You know what I'm saying? So you're not like sliding around into the other person's note. Like you really have to, stay in your lane, so to speak. And what Kathy Sledge taught me early on was to close your eyes, especially when I was struggling at first, to close my eyes and see the notes as colors, right? Because how they grew up from little, their grandmother was an opera singer, and so she was training them up since they were like 3, 4, 5, and 6 and 7 years old to learn how to harmonize and sing. And so she told me to see the notes, close my eyes, see the notes, and see them as colors, just like washing and blending together. And so that helped me visualize the note that I was supposed to be singing, but how it meshed with the other notes so that it matched in tone and intensity, And so just working on that, working with them, and that way when I started writing my own music and having to teach my backing vocalists their parts, it was certainly helpful. Certainly helpful. But there were moments when she would give me a chance to solo, give me a moment to shine. And even working with Gloria Gaynor, that was definitely more of a backing role situation where we never were sort of like out front with her until maybe like the encore, but we were up on our risers. However, I got to a place with Gloria where if we did like a 90-minute show, she would take a break like in between somewhere just to like rest up or let's, pat towel down. And she would let me come off my riser to speak to the audience, use my dancing skills, do a little vocal solo, introduce the band, while she took her little 5 or so minute break. And so, I always felt featured. I always felt like I had some shine. They would give me that space to do that. And even honestly, singing with Cher, when I got to work out in Vegas with her, we were for sure backing vocals, but there was a moment we did a medley of disco songs. We did Disco Inferno, and I got to sing the lead on that while Cher took a small break in the back. So, very exciting. And I was like, what? Oh, I get to do that part? Because I was filling in for someone else for those 6 weeks. And so they were like, yeah, you get to do that. I was like, okay. So, I definitely have had my moments to shine.
Right. So how is that like going out doing the Vegas residency for Cher? Because if you're an established act and if you got a deep catalog of hits, a residency is more money, more money, more money,
Okay.
easy money.
Oh my God. Okay. So first of all, best paying job I've ever had in terms of in the arts, for sure. Oh my God. That check was cute. But I got that gig. It was, listen, social media can have its, its downsides, as we know, with the bullies and people talking trash, whatever. But the upside is, you get to meet people, you get to network. And I've been on social media now strong since 2008, I guess. But yeah, I ended up connecting with this young lady on Facebook. First of all, my all-time idol is Tina Turner. Right, that's my all time. So if I ever get to meet Tina, if you're listening, please one day can I just meet you and bow at your feet? But I saw this young lady on Facebook, and back in the day, I think it's still that way where on the side it says people you might know.
Yeah.
And I saw her on the side, and her name is Nikki Tillman, and I saw in her profile she looked all glamorous, but I saw in her profile that she had worked with Nona Hendrix, actually, Tina Turner, Joe Cocker, all these people. But when I saw that Tina Turner, I was like, oh, who is this girl? So I sent her a friend request, and then she saw that I had danced for Alvin Ailey and that I was singing with Gloria. So we connected, and here and there we were like sister girl, in private messages. And then one day she said to me, "Send me your cell phone number, um, because you never know when we might need a substitute." And I'm thinking, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Sure enough, 3 weeks later, I get a phone call, a voicemail, and it was someone saying in the voicemail, "We got your number from Nikki Tillman, and we need somebody to fill in for her for 6 weeks in the Share Show in Vegas. Are you available?" I was like, okay, and hell yeah. I mean, there's way more to the story, but that's how that happened. And boom, I had literally 2 weeks. So I had to send them some of my vocals singing. They sent me recordings of 3 songs that I had to then take to a studio and record my vocals onto both the soprano part and the alto harmonies, and then send it back. Waited for a couple of weeks to find out if I got it. And then they called me. But once they called me and said, "You got the gig," I literally had 2 weeks to learn about 22 songs. So
Wow.
I like cleared my, yo, I cleared that schedule. Okay. I was like, I said to all my friends, yeah, I can't hang out these next 2 weeks. Yeah. And I had 2 weeks to get it together. Luckily by that point I was already working with Summer Stage, but I was able to like do my work from anywhere remotely, like I am now actually. But yeah, and they flew me out, all first class. It was fabulous. And with the Las Vegas residencies, at least for Share, what they do is like 6 weeks in season and then 6 weeks off, 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off to rest up. And so I was coming in after one of those 6 weeks off. And so they were brushing up in rehearsal first for 2 days in Los Angeles. So they had to fly me to LA first, and got to meet the whole band. And that first morning I walk in, and they were mad chill. I think when you're at that level, you're not like all dramatic. Like, you're chill. You're at the top of your game. There's no drama. You're just here to do a gig, man. So they were all super professional, super nice. They welcomed me into the room, but they were about their business. Like, they didn't give me a chance to be like, okay, do you want to go over anything? The musical director, who's actually now the musical director for The Voice, Paul Merkovich, he had already prepared me when I got the gig. He said, "Listen, when you come out to LA, we're not going to have a lot of time to rehearse. So you're going to need to know what you're doing. Like, we don't have time for you to baby you when you get here, basically."
You get thrown in the
And
deep end.
so, yeah. So when I got there, and actually my co-backing singer at that time was also a fill-in. It was her second round of fill-in, but all good. The divine Patty Russo, who for years had sung with Meatloaf as his like diva rock chick singer. She's amazing. So, the two of us. And so that first morning, Paul comes in with the band. Cher wasn't there yet. We were gonna like just rehearse the band. And the first thing he said was, "Okay, let's run the show." I was like, it was sink or swim, man. It was sink or swim. And so we ran the show down, 90 minutes in, took a break, went to lunch, came back, and there was Cher standing there ready to come in and now rehearse. And I was like, oh my God. So that I did allow myself a little moment of like, I'm a fan. Oh my God, I'm about to die. There's Cher, Um, but she was mad cool. Her manager saw me walking up, and I heard him say, "Oh, that's Danni. She's filling in these next 6 weeks." And she turned right around to me, put her hand out first, and that voice, that deep Cher voice. And she was like, "Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this, and have a good time." Boom. And we did 2 songs with her. And she was like, "I'm good." And then we were done for the rest of the day. So it was amazing. She was incredible, self-deprecating, not a diva at all, like just chill. It was great.
Right. And you answered my question about the schedule of Vegas residencies. It's like 6 on, 6 off, because for those that have not been to Vegas, that's the primary thing to do is to go catch a residency show. Now, a funny story about when I went to see Boys to Men at their residency out there. My wife and I, we were trying to find something to eat inside of the casino. And we were walking, trying to find something to eat. And I bumped into this gentleman, And he said, okay, I'm sorry, man. Then quickly went on his way. But I glanced out of the corner of my eye, and it turned out to be Sean from Boys to Men. I
Oh,
literally
no
bumped
way.
into Sean from Boys to Men. And I was like, man, I bumped into Sean. And then the funny thing, when I saw the show later on that night, they brought out Mark Nelson from As Yet with them to fill this
Oh.
stuff. And for those of you that don't know, Mark Nelson was originally in Boys to Men, but ended up leaving before Cool Out Harmony and everything to put out his solo album, and then later went to go do and join As Yet.
Yeah. So no, it was a good time. I mean, my mom got to come out and see it. I mean, she's a huge Cher fan, just from back in the 60s and 70s with Sonny Bono. And, she would dress like Cher and get those long black wigs and the bell bottoms. So when I told her I got the gig, she almost lost it. So I got to fly her out. She got to see the show. I was so proud. Um, and yeah, it was great. My boyfriend at the time, he got to fly out. Some of my friends got to see me in the show. So it was a really proud moment for me to step into that big scale arena, because I think the theater itself held like 5,000, the Coliseum at Caesar's Palace, right? And it was also my first time. I mean, this was like big time, man. It was my first time using in-ear monitors to sing. I'd never used those before, and they paid for me to go get them, like especially fitted for my ears. I still have them. They're mine now, and so but even with the sound mixer guy, I went up to him and I was honest. I was like, listen, I've never used these, so can you help me out? And he was this really cool Scottish guy, and he was like, oh, sure, Danny, just let's start, and then once we're done, just let me know what you might need more of, and we'll adjust it to your ears. And I was like, perfect. And so it really was an amazing experience. And our schedule was I think we would do like 2 days and then one day off, 2 days, one day off. So never got tired. I really took care of myself. You think about Broadway performers, 8 shows a week. They have to be really stringent about their regimen, and serious. And so me not ever having done that many successive shows like that singing, I had to be really focused, and I had a humidifier because it was really dry out there. I got all kinds of lozenges and throat, teas, and kept like echinacea in my room, just sort of like, all kinds of stuff to like keep myself well for those 6 weeks, and it paid off, and it was great.
Yeah, because I know some artists, they won't go into a room or a studio unless the room is at room temp, or they'll ask you, turn off
Hmm.
that AC.
Yeah, no, it's true. And in my job now at Summer Stage, having been a vocalist, I mean, I still sing sometimes, but having also been a professional dancer on a very high level, I intuitively know what an artist might need. Like, say we have water backstage, or somebody brings water to the stage for the artist, and I feel it and it's cold. I'm like, room temperature, because you drink. I mean, some artists do like cold water on stage, and they can make it work. Most artists like room temperature. Like for me, I used to always have room temperature because cold water lock up the vocals, even though you're sounding like cat scratch. But so just knowing those things because I've done it, and so bringing that now into my job as a presenter or producer, so to speak, I know what it feels like. So I know what they need. And if they're asking me for something, I'm not going to say, oh no, you don't. But yeah, I do know that you need this because I've been in your shoes.
Right. Because if you ever book a celebrity, people, get the writer, know what it is that they want, have it already there, rolled out before they get there, so that you can be indispensable. And that way you're not getting the wrong mix of M&Ms in the candy dish and it thrown back at you saying, why they're not only green M&Ms? I wanted
Yeah.
cold water, and I want my cheesesteak sandwich from Pat's with easy onions, extra mayo, and cheese.
Yeah, luckily for me at Summer Stage, though, like with most of the music artists, we have an incredible assistant who works with us in the summertime, company manager June, and he takes care of all of that. I mean, because we're a nonprofit free festival, we can't always provide like the high end backstage writer stuff, like the 15 bottles of, Cristal or whatever. We're like, well, we can do one bottle of, the Clicquot, and that's maybe it. So, we do our best. We do our
Mm.
best.
Yeah. How about three little huggies, two tasty cakes, and a Wawa juice?
You know what? I'm done.
And that's my final offer. And I ain't going no
That's
lower.
it.
And that's it.
Honestly, even with my band Sugar Bush, that's when I felt like I was doing something really big. My first time playing at the Blue Note here in New York, or even at BAM Cafe, when they asked us, what would you guys like to eat before or after the show? And in all my years performing with my band, I had never been asked that, because you just go in and go out, you're done. And I was like, oh, I've made it. I mean, that's what I want to eat. That was such a big deal. But it's those little things, little artist perks.
Right. I know the joys of being big time. Now you mentioned that the band has a little bit of a funk and a rock influence. You mentioned Earth, Wind, and Fire was
Yeah.
also bands like In Living Color, Bad Brains, Fishbone. Any influence?
I mean, sure, that is hardcore, obviously. And I'm actually friends with Vernon Reed, so that's awesome. I adore Vernon and his wife, Gabri. We're friendly, but for sure, listening to all of that growing up, and some of that came when I went to my performing arts high school, starting in sixth, seventh grade, because most of those kids, even though we know rock and funk is ours, but a lot of those kids in that school it was 90% white kids in that school. So now I'm being exposed to, Springsteen and Zeppelin and, Pink Floyd and all of that. I'm like, huh, I like this. The guitars, man. I just loved it. So blending those two things for me was how, my Sugar Bush sound, I guess, was created. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And we cannot forget this man right here who, alongside the West Coast pioneers of gangster rap, NWA, Ice T, PSK.
Oh.
What does that mean? Schoolie D and Gucci
Yes, of
Time.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on now.
Yeah. I know myself, Schoolie D. If you are a hardcore hip hop head, you know who he is. He's more than just doing the rap for Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I mean, PSK, that beat alone has been sampled numerous times in hip hop. And of course, it was featured primarily on Touch Me, Tease Me, Case, and Foxy Brown on the Nutty Professor soundtrack.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
was there one person or one group musically in particular that you felt should have blown up more out of Philly, but for reasons or another didn't?
Stacey Lattisaw. I found love on a two-way street. Come on, man. Stacey Lattisaw. Stacey Lattisaw. Come on, man. I
Yeah.
watched one of those was it Unsung or Behind the Music? Unsung, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, she should have been as big as, like, say, years later, like the Britneys of the world. But
Mm,
that voice was so pure. Oh, yeah,
right.
by
Yeah,
far for
yeah,
me.
because I think the issue was when you're so mature vocally at a young age, it's hard to find material that fits. Because I believe
Yeah.
that was Johnny Gill's issue before he got into New Edition, where the material wasn't matching the voice, but once he got into New Edition,
Yeah.
it all makes sense and it blended well
Mm-hmm.
together with what they were trying to do, maturing, and his vocals
Mm-hmm.
fit perfect.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you think about, I mean, even though, she is still performing, and Sister Sledge had lots of music before We Are Family hit, thanks to Nile Rodgers, and Bernard. But Kathy was 15 when she sang We Are Family.
Wow.
I mean, come on, man. One take. Come on. With that
That's when you know
voice.
you bad, when you can do it in one take.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. So that's what I grew up listening to. Not I look, I like today's music. I like a lot of today's music. Oh, you know who I love? I love her. I love
I
her.
love her too,
Man.
who just recently killed it at the Super Bowl.
Didn't she? And Jasmine Sullivan. Can we talk about Miss Jasmine
Go
Sullivan,
ahead, talk
honey?
about Miss Jasmine Sullivan in hotels.
I just love Jasmine Sullivan, and I think she's another one that needs and hopefully the Super Bowl maybe will do this for her. I don't know. And why they had to pair her with that cat. I don't know who it was she was singing with. No shade
Eric
on him,
Church.
but I could have listened to that. Oh, right. I could listen to Miss Jazz by herself. We've actually had her at Summer Stage. And that place, let me tell you, kids came out. That place was packed. It was packed. And that voice, man, I just want to see her like, oh, I mean, there's so many, there's many people that I know, even on my underground scene here, that could run circles around some of these vocalists out here that are getting all this mainstream love. Every night of the week in New York, you can pay $5 and go downtown, and these sisters are blowing. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to that, like, I'd rather go see a show where there's not all the pyrotechnics and choreography and everything else. Just give me some music. Just sing. you know?
Yep, have a nice
Yeah.
little stage. Maybe your mic have a little slack. You have a small little band. It's intimate like a supper club, and it's where you really get to hone your chops. So by the time you do get
Yeah.
to the big time, you're ready.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And I listen frequently to Questlove Supreme, and Questlove was talking about how the Roots had to go live in Europe for a couple of years while they were developing their sound. Then they broke back stateside, because I can remember the What They Do video with Raphael Sadiq on the hook and them just parodying the style of hip hop at the time. And I'm thinking, man, these guys are
Hmm.
going to be something. And then to see where they are now with Fallon, and of course Questlove with the Questlove Supreme podcast, and it's just
Yeah.
amazing to see their transformation from this niche group to where everybody and their grandma knows who the Roots are.
Yeah. I mean, again, sometimes I look back over my life and who I've met and just hung out with, and to see them now, it makes me so happy when I see my friends get on, so to speak. Captain Kirk, the guitarist from the Roots. I was doing shows with Kirk back in the day when we would back up the poet Jessica Care Moore on the scene. And when I was singing with my friend Greg Tate's band, who is a journalist, has a group now called the Burnt Sugar Orchestra Chamber. And so, we just all come from that same school of thought, like just excellence, just excellence. And it just makes me happy to see what they're doing now.
Yeah, it must be something in the cheesesteak in Philly because of all of the talent that has came out of there and just flourished. So can we talk about
Yeah,
Danny
right.
Gee TV?
Say that one more time.
Can we talk about Danny Gee TV?
Yes, please. Thank you. So honestly, man, I have been supremely blessed, and all during these COVID times, I have been supremely blessed to have kept my job. And a lot of my artist friends have, had to either move out of New York, they've lost so much work. And it's heartbreaking, having conversations with some of my friends that just don't know what they're going to do. If Broadway doesn't come back anytime soon, or dance companies folding, it's really tough. Even for us as a festival, having to make those phone calls and say to people, your show's canceled, like, we're sorry. So Danny GTV started really with me deciding to start doing Instagram live shows every Friday at 5 on my own Instagram page, Danny G NYC. And part of my reason for that was, at the end of it, or somewhere in the hour, I would ask the person I was interviewing, how can we support you? What give a link to your organization? Is there do you have a cash app? What's your Venmo? However we can help. And that's honestly, swear to God, how it started. My thought is, I gotta help my community somehow. And I can't donate all my money to everybody, but if I can at least bring awareness to my artist family and my community, whether it's music, dance, theater, all of the above, that's what I'm gonna do. And so I've been going strong, like every Friday since April 17th was my first show, and people have seen donations come through because of being on my platform, which is really wonderful. And so people were always asking me, like, how can we see these after? I can't catch it on Friday, but can I see it afterwards? So it took me a minute to work it out. I had to really learn some things on my own, like how to then upload them to YouTube. And I just really had to teach myself these things. And yes, I've been, I mean, I had a YouTube page, but I really wasn't using it a lot. So, um, I started transferring all the interviews and archiving them on my YouTube page. So I really want to start building out the brand of Danni Gee TV because I want it to really be an area where you can learn about all things culture, whether it's movies, films, jazz, kind of like, and honestly, I had the most beautiful compliment the other day, like 2 weeks ago. An agent friend of mine said she loved what I was doing with my interviews and that it reminded her of Soul and Mr. Soul. And when I tell you, I was so honored by that comment and that compliment. So I know I'm on the right path. So trying to build it out. I want to start trying to do more live streams actually from the YouTube channel, and doing bigger panels. So there's more people on the screen than just me doing IG live. So more to come. My 1 year anniversary is coming up, so maybe that'll be the first one where I do multiple people at once and we're just in conversation. There's a few anniversaries coming up that I hope to highlight. There's a very famous solo that was danced by Judith Jamison for Alvin Ailey that he choreographed called Cry. And so this is the 50th anniversary of the creation of that solo. So I'm contemplating doing a panel discussion with some other ladies that have danced the role, including myself. And so maybe that'll be the first bigger show. That would be really cool. I think that'll be cool, actually. Now that I think about it. So anyway, that's Danni Gee TV. That's the premise. And I'm hoping to maybe build it out where someday I can get some sponsorship so I can actually pay people to come on. Because right now people are just doing it for the love. And so, which is wonderful, but I really want to be able to pay folks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, doing it for the love, and that later on, more money, more money, more money. And anything that I can do beyond the album cover, we got you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Absolutely. And I just followed your page too, so I appreciate that.
Yes, it's all about building, networking, help everybody. And hopefully, let me stand on my small soapbox for a minute. If everybody does what they need to do, I repeat, if everybody does what they need to do, I'll say it one more time for those in the back. If everybody does what they need to do, you know what you need to do. I ain't gonna say no more. Then the world will open back up and we can be able to go
Yes.
places, do things, and be all like it was prior to this pandemic. If everybody does
Yes.
what they need to do, you know what you need to do it. I ain't gonna say no more.
Yeah. Amen, brother. Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
So you have your show tomorrow, right? With Melissa Hazlib, yeah?
Yeah, the interview is actually already up and running. You can catch that on my YouTube channel and
Okay.
wherever you stream. So the Melissa Hayslip interview is currently up. Be sure to check that out along with past interviews of Beyond the Album Cover. And then in a couple of weeks, Mr. Soul will be debuting on Independent Lens. Check your local PBS affiliates for time and dates.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten really lucky with who I've been able to interview. I mean, going through my Rolodex of folks that I've worked with or sung with. I interviewed, Gloria Gaynor. She allowed me to interview her for like 30 minutes. We did like a Zoom record, and then I put up. We didn't do live. I got to interview my crazy friend Felipe Rose, the original Indian from the Village People. Who is a hoot and a half, Kathy Sledge herself and her daughter. I want to bring them back if I can. Because early on in my interviews, I had an older phone and there was such a bad delay with the audio. It was like, these are killing me, So I definitely want to bring her back now that I feel like my technical stuff is a little bit better. And so, yeah, and of course, a lot of legendary dancers. I got to interview Mr. George Faison himself, the Tony-winning director for The Wiz. He allowed me to interview him in his home, and that was a great interview. That's also all archived on my YouTube channel. So, yeah, I mean, if anybody's watching this and want to go back and see any of those shows, are all there on my YouTube channel now, Danni Gee TV, and I'm excited. I'm excited. That's the silver lining of this COVID situation. As much as we hate it and it's so sad and scary, some of us have really figured out how to flex different creative muscles. So I am thankful for that, for sure.
Yeah, because I agree. Because even though I'm working from home, it allows me a lot more time to focus on the podcast, figure out how can I make it better, who can I get on, and just really reinvigorates that passion, that love that I have for broadcasting, what I was doing prior to radio, and say, hey, I can still do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I thank you for this. Any final thoughts? Any final questions?
Well, one thing I want to say is any shout outs you want to give, plug your social media, and give the people your days and times where they can find live Danny G TV interviews, if you would.
Yes. So my Instagram, where you can find the Instagram live shows, are every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's at Danny G NYC. And Facebook is the same. Just my name, Danny G. The YouTube is Danny G TV. But you can actually, I have two domain names that link to it. So you can, if you just go Danny G Live, it'll also kick you to the YouTube channel. And that's really it. I don't have a website yet. I feel like I don't know if I need one at this point. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, but every Friday at 5, that's where you can find me. I just joined Clubhouse. Are you on Clubhouse?
No, because I am an Android user and I know they are Apple
Oh,
exclusive. So curse you, Clubhouse, and your Apple exclusivity. Please make a Droid version.
well, I just joined, so I don't know how I'm going to use it yet. I'm thinking of using it to sort of like have the Danny G Live after show, like maybe some of the questions I didn't get to ask really, but then go to the after party and then we can like really go in or something. I gotta figure it out. I gotta figure it out. So yeah, but that's it, man. I'm all over social media. I do have a separate Instagram page, which is actually called Danny G TV. That it's nothing. It's none of my personal stuff. It's just all focusing on and representing the arts. Because on my Danny G NYC page, I got like funny memes and craziness on there. More personal stuff. But yeah, you can find me. You can find me.
You can
Yeah.
find her on all those platforms. You can catch this interview wherever you stream your podcast. Just search Beyond the Album Cover and the video version on my YouTube channel, Beyond the Album Cover. Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
the one, the only Jack of all trades, master of none, Miss Danny G.
I don't say that. Master of some.
Master of some, not master
There
of
you go.
none. Miss Danny G. Danny G, thank you so very much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Thank
All right.
you. Stay well.
All right.
Stay